Only significant design difference between these phones and last year's phones are these black bezels that go around the cameras. Now, the cameras themselves haven't been updated, which I'll touch on in a bit. Samsung added these black bezels around them to make them more uniform, not only across the phone that they're attached to, but the entire phone lineup as well. It also makes them look a lot more like the cameras that we see on the Galaxy Z Fold 6. So, Samsung is going for a cohesive look across its entire lineup. That's cool and all, but these phones look exactly the same as they have last year, which looked exactly the same as the phones from the previous year, and on and on and on. So basically, Samsung has a really boring design on its hands. If you want to get super nitpicky, Samsung did move the SIM tray hole. So now you don't risk accidentally putting your SIM tool into the microphone on the bottom of the phone. That's a great change, but not exactly super newsworthy. Samsung did bring in a whole new line of colors for these phones, but even those are pretty disappointing. The best one is navy, which is this nice, deep, dark blue. Then you have icy blue, which is just a lighter blue. And then you have silver shadow, which looks very similar to icy blue. And then you have mint, which is basically a green tinged version of silver shadow. So really, Samsung hasn't created that many new colors here. We just have two variations, either dark blue or versions of silver. Thankfully, there are some online exclusive models that you can get. Okay, so not much has changed on the outside of the phones, but Samsung brought new changes on the inside, right? Well, yes and no. The biggest change is that all phones in the Galaxy S25 series across the world come with the latest and greatest Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. That means there are no Exynos models in the Galaxy S25 lineup. This is great news. And the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy is a beast. It is far better than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 that we saw in the Galaxy S24 series. You get more performance, and you even get them at the same temperatures as we saw last year. And if you happen to have an Exynos model in the Galaxy S24 series, the Galaxy S25 blows it out of the water across every metric in every benchmark that we run. And it even does it running significantly cooler than last year. One of the ways Samsung was able to deliver all this extra performance is by including new vapor chambers in all Galaxy S25 phones. In the Galaxy S25 and Galaxy S25 Plus, the vapor chambers are actually 15% bigger than last year, which is great to see. Finally, the last significant hardware change here is exclusive to the smaller model. This model jumps from 8 GB of RAM to 12 GB of RAM, meaning that both phones now have the same amount of RAM. This is great to see, but it doesn't really affect the Plus model because it stays the same at 12 GB, which it's had for a few years now. That's about it for significant hardware upgrades. Yeah, there's Wi-Fi 7 on board, and we get a bump to Bluetooth 5.4, but those won't really make much of a difference in your day-to-day life. And that means we have no other upgrades. We have no camera upgrades, we have no battery upgrades, we have the same charging speeds as the previous year, and we have no storage upgrades, at least here in the United States. That means that software is the major differentiator between these and last year's model. First, the Galaxy S25 series offers a new feature called Virtual Aperture. You need to use the Expert RAW app to access this, but when you do, it basically gives you a super-powered portrait mode. When you're using portrait mode normally, what your phone does is it determines what the subject of the photo is and then blurs the background around it. But sometimes it might not pick the right subject, or sometimes it might not blur the background that well. With Virtual Aperture though, you're in control. You can choose what you want the subject to be, and then you can blur the background around it to different levels, almost like you were using a real camera. Of course, this is no replacement for actual camera hardware upgrades, which would have been great to see in the Galaxy S25 series. To put this into perspective, the Galaxy S25 series has the same camera hardware that we saw in the Galaxy S22 series. That's how long it's been since the 3 camera lenses on the back of these phones haven't been upgraded. The second feature I love in One UI 7 is a Galaxy AI feature that brings AI-powered search to the Gallery app and to Android settings. In the Gallery app, you use natural language to find a photo. So, for example, you could say, show me a photo with a pool in it, and it'll go through your gallery and find any photos that have a pool in it. This is super convenient and will definitely save a lot of time when you're trying to find that one specific photo to show your friend. But the real kicker here is that Samsung is bringing the same functionality to Android settings. And this is going to be a game changer. One UI is positively bursting with toggles and sliders and buttons and all sorts of of settings that you can change, and it can be really overwhelming for people, especially if it's their first Samsung phone, and especially if they're coming from iOS. Instead of needing to blindly navigate through Android settings trying to find the setting that you want to change, you now have this AI-powered search bar. You can type or even talk and just ask for what you want, and One UI will find it and show it to you. This is going to make things so much easier and more intuitive for people. As an example, my dad has an iPhone. If he were to get a Galaxy S25, when he took it out of the box, he would see that it has the 3-button navigation system down there. Now, he might not even know that Android offers a very iOS-like gesture navigation system, so he wouldn't know that he could change it. But he could just go into the Android settings, tap into this box, and say, I don't like the bottom buttons. And Android settings would show him that he can change to gesture navigation. He wouldn't know to go in there and look for gesture navigation or anything like that, but this search box allows him to just say what he doesn't like or what he does like, and it'll find that setting for him. As cool as these new AI search bars are, they do present a new problem for the Galaxy S25 series, which is feature creep. For example, if you were to hold the side key down to launch Gemini and ask the questions that I just discussed, it won't work. That's because Gemini is a wholly different thing from the search bars that you'll find in Android settings and in the Gallery app. This is really confusing, and if Samsung's not careful, it's going to become a big problem for users down the line, which is, why do these phones exist? So I know what Samsung is doing here. These phones aren't that much better than the Galaxy S24 series, but they are significantly better than the Galaxy S22 series. So Samsung is probably banking on the idea that people who have Samsung Galaxy S22s or earlier are going to look to upgrade. And when they do upgrade to a Galaxy S25, they're going to be really happy because this phone is going to be a lot better than the phone that they used to have.